But it's funny, growing up, I never cooked. People are like, oh my gosh, you poop in a bucket. Ooh, that's a hard question. So different people than we were 12 years ago. If we made it through this, we could do anything. I get emotional, but
It's been 12 years since Doug and Stacy first left the city and moved off-grid. They've been living a pioneer lifestyle in the 21st century. They live in a cabin, they heat and cook with a wood stove, no lights or water run by electricity. They garden and raise animals, and they teach others on YouTube how to find their way back to a simpler life. Today, we had a conversation with Stacy, who after 12 years on the homestead has so much wisdom and insight to share with all of you that I hope you stick around for the whole video.
oh, hey, how you doing? Come on in. Well, you know what? Before we get started, do you mind, can I have a cup of tea?
Oh, of course.
All right, I'm ready to go.
So you and your husband Doug have been living off-grid and homesteading without any public utilities for 12 years now. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Oh, sure. So my husband and I have been living without any public utilities, meaning we live 100% off of rainwater. We have rainwater catchment where we do laundry with that water, we take baths or showers in that water. We also grow the majority of all of our food, about 90% or so we do grow.
You didn't come from this lifestyle, is that right? Or is this something that you've always done?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, I was a city girl. I used to like to go to the mall and shop and, do those things. But the cool thing about it was I had a father who was totally Mr. Outdoorsman and used to go hunting and fishing all the time. So I kind of had a little bit of that. But growing up, I was just in the city doing what all the city people do. You would go out and, go out to eat and, buy a lot of the processed foods at the store. It was just kind of the same old thing. And then, the more research I was doing, I went and became a holistic lifestyle coach, and I started learning that everything that I thought was healthy or so wasn't healthy. And so we started making changes in our home. And then through that process, it's like, we better get out of here, because if I want to control what's going in my body, we better, do it ourselves and be able to be self-sufficient and self-reliant and not have to worry about anybody else taking care of us.
What was like the catalyst that got you to go from, you're getting into health and all that stuff, but then you go to, pioneer lifestyle, off-grid, no utilities, no shower, no, flushing toilet?
Yeah, no, nothing. When we first left, it wasn't like we were gonna go off-grid and live primitive and all that. At first we were gonna get an RV and we're gonna live here, and then Doug was gonna eventually maybe build a home or a cabin, but it just worked out. It was cheaper actually to build our cabin than it was to get an RV. Come to find out, we had no clue when we bought this property. We're just a few miles from the Amish. They have really helped us a lot. The girls have really helped me with a lot of things, and the men have really helped Doug, to kind of implement a lot of these off-grid things that they do. And I would go over there and I would just watch. It's just amazing. And so just by doing that, I learned so much. I mean, it was one of those things, once you're immersed in it, you'll learn quick. You know what I mean? You do learn quick.
Is there something that you wish you had known before you jumped into this?
No, I really appreciate the whole process of everything. I don't have any regrets about anything. That's another question you get. Well, or if you could change something. That's like the biggest teacher right there. So when you're learning these things and you make a mistake, then you're probably not going to do it again. It's the best learning experience. So instead of people just showing me stuff to do, I like to actually do it myself. If I mess up, then I'm going to fix it. And I think that's probably the best way.
Was there anything that was hard for you as a woman to adjust to in this lifestyle?
For me initially, you know, in the middle of winter when it starts to get dark at 4:30, you know, and we're here because we moved in October because he started in July and we moved in October, and all of a sudden you don't have any lights, you know, and you just have a little bit of light and you're trying to, you know, get dinner, do dishes, and, you know, get things done, you know, and you're ready to go to bed because it's so dark. That took a little adjusting for my body. Another thing that I didn't talk about is I was getting some health problems from a lot of toxicities and candles and just stuff from changing my diet, and kind of helped detoxifying my liver and kidneys and all that, and just getting my body clean, drinking good water, you know, being out in nature every day, watching the sun, you know, rise in the morning to, you know, regulate your serotonin levels. I just started noticing I was sleeping better. I just felt better. Just kind of being part of nature and absorbing the sounds around us, walking barefoot. People think that getting healthy and being happy has to be so complicated. It really is getting good water, getting a little movement or exercise. You don't have to call it exercise. You know, breathing nice clean air, you know, grounding yourself, kind of getting out in nature, getting good sleep. And that's what we did, both of us did, and we feel better now. I'm almost 60 now, and I feel better and have more energy than I did in my 20s.
Being a woman on the homestead, could you talk more about hygiene?
Sure, okay, so when we first moved off grid, when you're on grid, you know, everyone's taking showers every single day, you're washing your hair every single day, you know, all that. So when we first moved off grid, we couldn't do that, you know, and I just started noticing my hair started getting better. I used to have kind of itchy skin. I didn't have itchy skin anymore. My skin started getting better. My hair was getting better. I mean, it was just crazy. You know, guys, you don't need to take a shower every single day and use soap all over your body, because you do have a microbiome out on your skin too. So you don't want to wash all that good stuff. It kind of protects you. It's like a little suit of armor. So whenever you need to take a shower, you can wash those areas, you know, that need to be washed. You know, and we have great hygiene here. We have a shower, you know, I have an outside shower that's out in the back of our outside kitchen that Doug rigged up. It's wonderful. It's got an elevated tank on it. It works out good. So for a lot of us, if you're having skin problems, it could be you're just using way too much soap. You don't need to wash every little inch of you every single day because you're washing all that good stuff off.
Are there any self-care products that you just can't live without?
Well, I make my own toothpaste, and if you guys have not seen that video, we will link it above. It was really fun about homemade tooth powder. I like my tooth powder. I really love that a lot. And then I also did a video on ghee, and not a little while ago, about the different uses of it. I use the ghee for everything, all my skincare, for my face. You can oil pull with it. There's so much you can do with the ghee. If I do need a deodorant, we'll talk about hygiene some more. I like my favorite thing so far, I think it works the best. I just use a little bit of coconut oil with a little shot of baking soda. I rub it and then just put it under my arms, and it works the best for me. You know, it's a good natural. I really like the Castile soaps. They're just a wonderful, you know, way to, you know, if you're gonna take a shower. But I think that might be it. If I come up with another one, I think of one, I'll let you know. Oh, I do have one more thing that I can't live without when you talk about like healthcare, hygiene, and all that. It would be raw apple cider vinegar. That one I use for my hair as a rinse. It helps with dandruff and just making it smooth, and put a little shot of that in some water. It's good to help increase your stomach acid if you're having problems with acid reflux or anything like that. You can soak your feet in it. So apple cider vinegar is a good one.
Think of a woman on a homestead, you kind of automatically get this image of, you know, she's running around, she's got flour in her hair, her clothes are all messed up. Why do you like to, you know, get dressed and put on earrings and all this stuff? You have such a cute style.
I just think, you know, when you get up and you feel good about yourself and you know, comb your hair or do whatever you're gonna do and get dressed, it just makes me feel happy. I feel better. For anybody, if you just make the time just to get up and kind of fix yourself up and go, it just makes you feel better for the rest of the day. So it's just like they say, if you get up every morning, make your bed no matter what, because If your bed is made at the beginning, it'll set the rest of your day. So if you get up and you make yourself look presentable and feeling good, then the rest of your day will be good too.
Okay, I have to ask you, what is it like using a composting toilet?
Well, it's not bad at all. So basically it looks like a regular toilet, but there's just a bucket, and you do your business in the bucket and cover it with sawdust. And we have a composting center out back where we put, they call it humanure. You put that in the bin, and then you put some straw, and you cover it so it composts. It has to be the right temperature and all that. And then once it fills up, it takes about a year, then you let it set for another year. So for 2 years, it's going to compost. And then that's going to turn into wonderful compost that you can put around your trees and plants and your garden. I mean, these are really easy to clean, and I'm not using all this water that the toilets use. We're very sustainable here. People are like, oh my gosh, you poop in a bucket, but things like this have been going on for thousands of years. I mean, this isn't rocket science, but it's just a beautiful dirt. And I did experiments at first. I would try one side of like my plants that I had, and other side with and without the compost that we have. And the one side that we use with our humanure was like double the size of the other one. So it was kind of cool. So it's very easy, not hard to do at all.
So you do most of the gardening, right?
Yes.
Have you always gardened?
Well, that's a good one. Another good question. My dad had a big, huge garden growing up. I never had anything to do with it. I just ate what was in the garden. I never paid attention, which I should have. I knew nothing about gardening. I mean, when Doug and I first moved, we moved from our home to a one-bedroom apartment to transition to get to where we are now. And, they had a community garden. So I had this little box, which was like a little teeny box. And even then, I'm like, oh good, we could learn to garden. And I'm like, all the weeds and pulling them in, and everything grew in there. And this was before we even moved off grid. I thought, oh, this should be great. And then our first year down here, we had a drought. When we had our first full big huge garden, we had 250 strawberry plants, which are very labor intensive. I mean, we went in like full force. We went in and did all this, and we didn't have access to any of that. And then it was a drought. The ponds were drying up. I mean, some of the people around us, they were dried up. You could see all the dead fish in the bottom of the pond. That's how bad it was. Because we didn't have our systems in place or anything, and it was so hot. It was like 100 degrees. But we made it through, and I said to myself, I said to Doug, if we made it through this, we could do anything. And ever since then, it's been great. The first big thing that I did is I wanted these great big onions, because one of the Amish guys would have these big huge onions. I would go over there and I'm like, I want onions like that. So I kept asking questions, and I learned how to grow big onions. And I just did one thing at a time. For a lot of you guys, you can't expect to have a beautiful garden. Tackle one plant at a time, one season. Say, I'm going to really work on how to grow eggplants this year. Do what you can every year and just try to get better at something. That's what life is to keep learning and trying new things. I mean, I like to do things easy. I don't do things like what people do on TV or on YouTube all the time. I don't have the perfect garden. I don't weed all the time. And it's okay. Even now my beds aren't cleaned up. It's a big mess out there. So, I don't want to hassle with it. I don't want to get myself all upset because I'm seeing everybody else on YouTube cleaning out their beds and doing this and that. I have other things to do, and it works out for me. And for you guys, you have to find out what works for you guys.
Okay, so you put out a cookbook recently, didn't you?
I did.
That's so cool. I'm curious where you learned to cook, or where you found a love for cooking.
It's a very easy question, because my grandmother, I'm Armenian, and my parents were both Armenian too. And my grandmother fled from Armenia in the early 1900s during the Turkish massacre of the Armenians, and came here to America. Her husband passed away, and when I was just a baby, she moved in with us. And so she was basically the chef of my family. So she would make these wonderful pastries and breads and all our meals, all the Armenians, like authentic from scratch meals. And it was like nothing you could ever imagine. And so I used to just watch her, just enamor of watching her. So I think that was the big thing, my big catalyst. But it's funny, growing up, I never cooked. Even when I was a teenager, 18, I mean, I really never cooked. It wasn't until I was older that I started cooking more. You know, you go to restaurants and places like that, and now especially I can't go anywhere because I think my cooking tastes better. I shouldn't say that. But when you go to a restaurant, it's not as flavorful because I'm using all my fresh herbs, you're using lots of garlic and onions, and nothing's better than a good home-cooked meal. So start cooking from scratch.
What's a favorite meal that you had as a kid?
So there's bread, Armenian bread. It's a big flat bread called lavash. Hats means bread, lavash hats. And we used to call it tanadov hats. So tan is a kind of a sauce that you make with yogurt and garlic. And basically you'd have this big round pan and you would put layer after layer of the lavash, which was the bread, and then you'd pour all like butter and the tan, which is that yogurt sauce, all over it, and then you'd kind of put it in the oven, and then you'd cut it in like big squares, and it was just so good. So that was one of my favorites growing up.
How has going off-grid affected your relationship with your husband?
That's a good question. Well, it's just amazing how working hard can pull you together. When we were living on grid, he would go to work, I would go to work, we'd be gone all day from one another. Then at the end of the day when you're tired, you get together, you lay around watching TV, you know what I mean? You barely talk to each other. It's like two ships in the night. Here we're together all the time, we're working together. I mean, he has time away from me, I have time away from him. It's not like we're with each other, you know, every single second. But here, you know, we have projects, we work together all the time. We were just thinking about that. We've been off grid longer than we were on grid, you know, as a married couple. But our relationship is like stellar. We've learned how we have to communicate with one another. We have learned each other's, you know, strengths and weaknesses because we rely on one another. I mean, without us relying on one another, things aren't going to get done. So it can make or break you. So you got to learn to communicate, and that's really important. And then you have to work hard together. You know, working hard is one of the best medicines sometimes for a relationship.
It reminded me of a question I had, which was that, you know, you guys started a YouTube channel where you share all of this with people and you teach people about this, being, you know, present on social media and present with people that follow you and all this stuff. Is there something that, you know, helps you to stay grounded or balance those things?
I think it's really important not to let these things like take over your life. You need time for joy, to be joy-filled. I'm a big one about affirmations, and that's a big one for me because, you know, when you're a kid, you're just always so happy and joyful. And as you get older, stuff happens in life and you start losing that joyfulness. It's those little things, like when I look out the window and I see the rooster chasing the hen, or you know what I mean? Looking at the birds, wild birds eating the sunflower seeds, and the wind is blowing through the trees. And I mean, it's just those little things that make such a difference. So I'd always say, you know, I am joyful, I'm joy-filled, you know, and I think that is really important to enjoy every moment of life, you know, being outside or just being able to just be grateful. The sun is rising, it's just the beauty of life.
So over the last 12 years, has your idea of beauty changed?
Yes, definitely. All right, so let's see if I can explain this correctly. So now I have friends. It could be the Amish, it could be, I have some neighbors around here. I work with them, I see what they do, I see that they're hard workers. I have a friend now, she's got a bunch of fryers, a ton of fryers, and by herself every day in this freezing cold weather, she's got to get them done. By herself, she's doing them, you know, a few at a time, diligently trying to get it done. She's a hard worker, you know, she works hard, she takes care of her husband. I know in a time of trouble or anything, she would help me and I would help her in a time of trouble like that. That's beauty. It's not all about, you know, having the beautiful hair and the hair color and driving the Mercedes Benz and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's not about that. It's about being good people. It's just those little things, being a neighbor, having good relationships with people around you, being beautiful inside. It's just being real. And I think that's huge.
What would you say to young women or older women, that are maybe struggling to feel like themselves or feel like they maybe don't have a place in society right now?
Well, I think, and it's getting better, I think it's important to embrace who you are. You don't have to be somebody for somebody else. Everything now is about being young and all this. It was hard for me for a while because I colored my hair and I let my hair go gray. You have to be happy with yourself. And just knowing that, you are who you are, embrace your wrinkles, you earned all that.
What is a quote that you live by?
A quote I live by? Okay, here's a good one. And I really, especially these past 12 years, I really have been good about this, I think. Where your focus goes, energy flows. Gotta change how you talk to yourself, because it's all about that. If you focus on the negative, you're gonna get negative. So I'm all about positive energy, no toxic vampires around me talking that negative stuff. I'm all about, it's all about that attitude. Because, it's not rainbows and unicorns here all the time. A lot of times you guys watch the videos and it looks so pretty and all that kind of stuff, but, we'll have 60-mile-an-hour winds. I gotta go out and you gotta do chores. It's not always wonderful. But then the next day the sun will be out. So it's not gonna be like that all the time, and it's only gonna be for a short time, and it made me stronger.
All right, Stacy. If the homestead was going up in flames, what would be the one thing you would grab?
Well, Molly, our dog, of course, if she was in the house. Well, honestly, I wouldn't grab anything. I would just go, because we're so different people than we were 12 years ago. It's amazing. Doug and I moved out here with nothing, and we came and we basically just started from scratch. So it is all about those simple things and survival, having a roof over your head, having, a warm bed to sleep in, and having some food, and good water. It really is. That's all it is. Life is just very simple. You can be the happiest person. It's not about the money. It's about, the struggles. I think it's the struggles in life that make you a better person.
What's something that you've accomplished that you feel the most proud of?
Ooh, that's a hard question. Well, I might have to just say, just learning so much. I went to college, and I cannot tell you anything that I learned in college. Honestly, in this experience of my 12 years of actually doing something and learning things that I knew nothing about, and just doing things and being in an uncomfortable situation, especially living like we live, when you live off-grid, this has taught me so much, just to be about like nature and how the wind blows. I had no clue about north, south, east, or west. I know the wind's blowing from the north. I know we're gonna have a storm. I know what the signs are. I can look at the leaves now. I've become present with myself and with like my surroundings and the nature and what's gonna happen with everything. And it's just been, I get emotional, but it's just so cool to be a part of the whole process. I said the whole process of us raising our foods, raising our animals, being in tune with nature, and I know that I'm in control. I don't have to rely on anybody. The whole process has just made me a much stronger person, much stronger.
Okay, I have one last question for you. Do you have any words of advice for someone who, takes after you and is looking to get into this lifestyle?
Well, I would say don't set any expectations at all. And, just enjoy the journey. It's simple. Just enjoy the journey.
This has been a great time with Offgrid Vogue.
What's so funny?
And a wooden spoon too. Really getting the full experience here.
You are. Off-grid, baby. Here we go.
What are you doing? Bye, Stacy.
Thanks for stopping by. Wait. See ya.